things can always get worse, right? I'm talking as a guy who went to jail for a year. Like, they could always get worse. I could have gone to jail for 15 years. I could have gone, to prison for 50 years. When I got out, my parents could have not been there for me and left me on my own. I mean, there could always be a worse situation. I could have ended up homeless, right?
Welcome to the IGNTD Recovery Podcast, a new way forward for anyone looking for answers but feeling left out. If you've been searching for empowerment, triumph, and purpose, you've found them right here. You won't hear the same solutions, and you're not going to have any excuses to fall back on, because IGNTD Recovery allows heroes to rise and become their best selves. I'm Dr. Sophie Jaffe, and I can't wait to be your guide on this journey. Are you ready to become an ignited hero?
What I want to talk about right now, the topic for today, definitely piggybacks on something I've been talking about for about a week and a half, and that is showing up at times when our back is not against the wall, right? How do we create a practice in our everyday life that allows us to check in with ourselves or other people about what we need to do to keep moving forward, even if it's not do or die time? So the reason I think this is so important to talk about is, there's this thing in addiction about rock bottom. Everybody talks about, did you hit rock bottom yet? Did you not hit rock bottom? Is this your rock bottom? Is the other thing rock bottom? Are you going to hit rock bottom next week? It's kind of like the theme, right? And the idea of a rock bottom is simple. It's, right, you can literally imagine, we talk about somebody falling off the cliff so much. It's like somebody falling, hitting the floor, the ground, and there's nothing lower than that. And then they can start climbing back up and making their way out of this horrendous situation they've ended up in. The problem with the rock bottom concept is this. That works when you think of an analogy of falling down a mountain and hitting the floor. There really isn't a rock bottom in life. Things can always get worse, right? I'm talking as a guy who went to jail for a year. Like, they could always get worse. I could have gone to jail for 15 years. I could have gone, to prison for 50 years. When I got out, my parents could have not been there for me and left me on my own. I mean, there could always be a worse situation. I could have ended up homeless, right? Really, the ultimate rock bottom of life is death. That's the real rock bottom, if we're honest about it. And I hate the concept that we have to wait for potential death in all of its forms to get our shit together. I think there's got to be a way that we can do better than that. And so what I mean is, some people come in here and their rock bottom was they got a DUI, and they call that their rock bottom. And other people got divorced, and that's their rock bottom. And other people went homeless, and other people lost all their money or their house. So when we talk about all those as being rock bottoms, it's very clear that they are different. So I think what's more important for us to talk about is, where's the inflection point? Where's the moment when we are ready to change? I think that is much, much smarter for us to discuss. What does it take for me to be willing to change? And if we can talk about that and get practice in it, we could prepare ourselves to change much earlier in the process where we need to or could change, before we have to change, which is what we normally consider that pivotal moment. If somebody is threatened with 15 years in prison and they've never been to jail, are they going to be ready to change? Yeah, right? A lot of people would go, hey, tell me what I have to do to not end up in prison for 15 years, and I'll be pretty happy to do it, right? Ready to change. Another version, if somebody's wife comes to them or husband comes to them and says, hey, if you don't do this, I am walking out the door with the kids and I'm leaving you and I'm taking the house. Are people going to be ready to change? Yeah, people are going to be ready to change, right? Somebody holds a gun to your head and says, if you don't do this, I will shoot you and you will die. People are going to be ready to change, right? So we know there are moments that can drive forward this readiness. Why is it that so many of us wait so long? And I think the reason is one of perspective. It's one of the concept we have in our head of how hard or how painful the change will be. because we get so used to doing things the way we're used to doing them, they feel easy, even if they're not fun, even if we don't enjoy them, even if the ship has sailed long, long ago on them being pleasurable. They feel easy. They feel simple. We know how to do them. So there's resistance to changing until what happens in our life is the real realization that the pain of keeping things together as they are is much greater than the pain of change. I believe that the moment we realize, oh, wait, change is going to suck, but it's going to suck a lot less than not changing, that's when we go that direction. And in a way, that gives me hope, because really all that means is we're choosing the easy way out every time. That's it. The example I always give people every single day: if you hate your job, you hate your relationship, you hate the people you hang out with, and you wake up in the morning and the choice is, should I start drinking at 10 a.m. and just kind of zone out on this life? Or should I go through life with all these things I hate, going to a job I hate, hanging out with people I hate, being with my partner who I don't get along with? Drinking is the better option. It may not be long-term, but in the moment, it's the better option. Because should I have a day I hate, or should I have a day I can barely pay attention on? I'm going to choose not paying attention unless I'm clear on what happens otherwise. So the reason this came out of a conversation I just had earlier is sometimes we can learn from other people's experience. And I think that's a hack that we can take on to learn what we don't want long-term. And therefore, how can we change what we're doing now to get a better outcome?
Thank you for tuning in to the Ignited Heroes Recovery Podcast. I really hope you found the information here useful, and that we'll see you back here next week. And look, I want to make sure that this podcast is the most useful it can be for you, so please let me know by emailing info@ignited.com if there are any specific topics or questions you'd like to have addressed. As usual, if you like this episode, I would love for you to leave us a 5-star review and rating. Thanks, and see you next week.